We're now switching from savings tools to investing. Remember, your savings tools are checking, savings, CDs, and money markets. Once you build up enough financial security and you have enough liquid assets to meet all of your needs, then you need to refocus your goals from savings to investing. Remember that both savings and investments are important parts of financial and planning. What's the difference? A savings is more liquid than investments are. Remember, we discussed what liquid means. Liquid means that you can get your hands on it easier and you can turn it into cash easier. But remember, we also talked about in our savings tools, our checking is the most liquid of them, and then it goes over to CDs, being the less liquid of them. However, what's the difference between that, our CDs, and investing? Investing is more like your stocks and bonds, things where you cannot get to very easily at all. Not within those 5 and 10 years like we talked about. You invest so that you can have for the future, but there's a lot of risk there, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So what's an investment? An investment is an assets purchased with the goal of providing additional income from the asset itself, but with the risk of loss. Okay, so what's an asset? Remember, an asset is something that we what? Own. It's something that we own, and we are using that to provide additional income with this asset, but we're going to have a risk of loss. What's a return? A return is profit or income generated by savings and investments. So, in other words, that's what you're going to get back. That's the profit you're going to make from that savings or investment. The trade off with your investments is the higher the return, the higher your chance of loss. So, that's the gamble you're going to take. When you have a higher return, which means you've got more interest rates, you're going to make more money, you've also got to gamble the fact that you may lose that as well. So that's another big difference with an investment, is it has a higher chance of loss. Possibility that an investment will fail to pay the expected return. So there is that possibility that you will lose it. You've heard people talk about playing the stock market. There's risk there to get a lot of money and to lose a lot of money. Investments are important to building net worth. Savings tools provide the foundation for financial security and build net worth. However, investments have a great potential to build net worth because of the higher returns. Your savings tools are your monetary assets. Again, liquid, quickly and easily converted to cash. Remember, here we are again with our statement of financial position, where it's taking you back to this every time. If you'll recall, you've already done the savings tools. We went over that in the last lesson. Now this is just reminding you where the investments go in the statement of financial position. So again, you've got here, this is more liquid, but investment tools are not going to be easily converted to cash or penalties charged to access the funds early. So you will get a penalty if you're trying to break into these funds a little earlier. Investments help accomplish long-term goals. So investments are more for long-term goals. Not saying that savings cannot help us in the long term, but if you are comparing the two, these are more long-term goals. Things like buying a house, higher education, and retirement. So for now, what I'm doing is I'm investing for my children with higher education, and I'm also working on my retirement at the same time. It is recommended that at least 10% of your net income is dedicated to savings and investments each time income is received. So each time you get paid, that is the recommended number, is your 10%. Savings versus investments. So if you haven't understood yet what the difference is, here it's laid out for you. Savings are for emergencies. We talked about that already. Investing is for long-term goals. Your savings, more liquid, means I can go get it out faster. Investing is less liquid. Remember, why do we want less liquid things? Because we don't want to get our hands on it until later. Limited risk in a savings account, your checking and also the CDs and money markets, all four of them are limited risk. And then the higher risk is investing. We may lose some money when we're investing our money. In savings, we got lower return, 0 to 4%. Then in investment, we got 8 to 12% higher returns. In other words, the money that we're going to make. So this is a huge difference. This is the reason why you are putting it away for a long amount of time, so that it can build all of this interest up. Savings is financial security. That's where you want to feel safe. If an emergency comes up, something happens, you got to get to your money quickly. Investing is more like your net worth. You are trying to build up your net worth so that you can have something for the future. Rate of return. This is your total return on investment expressed as a percentage of the amount of money saved. So in other words, how much percentage of money have we saved? Here is the formula for that. You take your total return amount, in other words, your total profit, divide by an amount of money invested, so your original amount that you put in, and then you equal your rate of return. So let's do a problem about Mandy. What is Mandy's rate of return? Mandy saved $2,200 in money market deposit account. After 1 year, she has a return of $110. She made $110. So what's her rate of return? How do I do that? Remember, our formula is our total return, which is 110, divided by the amount we invested, which was $2,200, and that gives us 0.05, which we now know that in the calculator it's 0.05, but then when you move it to percent, we move it back up by moving our decimal back to the right, so that is a 5% rate of return. You may want to take a second and make sure you know how to do that in the calculator. Inflation. You've probably heard inflation before when you discuss this in economics, talking about the economy. Inflation is the rise in general level of prices. Inflation risk. The danger that money won't be worth as much in the future as it is today. How does inflation relate to investing? Well, I just told you that we're concerned with inflation, which is the level of prices going up, and we care about inflation risks, that the money that it's worth today, that in the future it will not be worth as much. So how investing relates to that is the fact that we are saving and investing for long-term goals. That's the whole purpose of us saving for this future financial security. So we want to build our net worth, and if inflation does indeed happen, then the money that we've projected for is not worth as much as we thought it was going to be, so we're going to end up having less money. Here's a list of investment tools that we're going to learn about. So the investment tools are different than the savings tools that we just learned. You just recently watched some videos on some of these, so hopefully you have a little prior knowledge going into this. What is a bond? A bond is a form of lending to a company or the government. This is government issued. Bonds have the least amount of investment risk compared to other tools. So they have the least amount of investment risk compared to other tools because they are purchased with fixed interest rates. Remember, the word fixed means always going to stay the same. It does not vary up and down. If they give it to you at one rate, it stays there. However, there is still a risk that interest won't be paid. So you have a risk, but if you have a risk, the risk is going to be at a fixed interest rate instead of variable. So what's an example? An example of a fixed interest is if an investor purchased a $1,000 bond with a 5% annual interest rate, they should receive $50 in interest each year until the maturity date. So, how is it fixed? Because the $50 is going to be consistent each year. The exact amount of risk depends on the type of bond purchased. So that's important for you to make sure that you know about a bond. What is a maturity date? Maturity date is the specified time in the future when the principal amount of the bond is repaid to the bondholder. Okay, so this is very much like Al's ice cream. A stock. A stock is a share of ownership in a company. The stockholder or the shareholder is the owner of the actual stock. When a stockholder purchases a stock, they own a very small part of the company. So, like for example, Coca-Cola, Apple, there are people that own shares of that particular company. So they're owning stock in that company. You've probably heard the term, you should buy stock in Walmart, or like if you visit a place so much, I should have some stock in Target. Usually a stockholder owns a very small part of that company. Stock returns and dividends. Returns may be paid on stocks with dividends and capital gains. However, a return is not guaranteed. Dividends may or may not be paid depending on the type of stock and if a company has made a profit. When selecting a stock, individuals try to choose stocks with a market price that will increase, allowing them to later sell the stock for more than the purchase price. This is a form of unearned income called a capital gain. Remember, we talked about unearned income is money that you make off of something. So, like for example, here, this stock, whereas the earned income is when you go to your job, work, get a paycheck. So, that's just a reminder. In general, capital gains have the potential for high returns. But as the potential for returns increase, so does the investment risk and the potential for loss. Here's some more information on your capital gains. You got your market price, current price a buyer is willing to pay. So the market price is what it's going for at this current time. Stocks sell for the price higher than what was paid. If the stock sells for higher than what it's paid, then you're going to make a capital gain, which is your unearned income, like I was just explaining. Stock sells for a price lower than what was paid, then the stockholder is going to lose money. So the market price is what you actually can sell it for at the current time. Real estate. Real estate is ownership of residential or commercial property or land. Potential for returns is definitely there. Capital gains, selling the property for more than what it was paid. Typically, you are going to build equity in a home and then you will sell it for more than what it's worth. And then rent is charging others for the use of the property. So once you buy it and pay it off, then the rent is just extra money. Examples of real estate investments include rental units or commercial property. A lot of people, as they get older, they will purchase a home, and pay it off, like I was just saying, and then rent it out to others so that way it's an easy source of income. So, like, my dad has a home that he does that with.